What if we told you that the terrifying Kraken might actually be based on a real sea creature? Or that the legend of the Cyclops could have been sparked by an ancient misunderstanding? From one-eyed giants to monstrous sea serpents, these legends may have more truth to them than you think. So let's unravel these mythical creatures to see if they're based on fact or fiction. First up, we've got Cyclops. You know, those giant one-eyed creatures from Greek mythology. Cyclopes were described as huge beings with a single eye in the middle of their foreheads. But where did this strange idea come from? One theory is that ancient Greeks found the skulls of extinct dwarf elephants. These skulls have a large hole in the center where the trunk is attached, which could look like a giant eye socket. Another explanation is cyclopia, a rare condition where a fetus develops only one eye. Although this usually results in stillbirths, it could have inspired stories of one-eyed giants. There's also a condition called acromegaly, which causes abnormal growth of the head, hands, and feet. People with acromegaly might have looked larger than life and had distinct facial features, which could have led to the myth of the Cyclops. Next up are the Sirens, those enchanting but deadly creatures from Greek mythology. These mythical creatures were said to have beautiful voices that lured sailors to their doom. In Homer's Odyssey, Odysseus wanted to hear their enchanting song, so he had himself tied to the mast of his ship, while his crew filled their ears with wax to avoid the Sirens' spell. Some historians think the Sirens might have been inspired by real creatures, or even by the mesmerizing effects of the sea itself. The idea of dangerous, seductive beings shows our fear of the unknown and the powerful allure of nature. No list of mythical creatures would be complete without vampires. Our modern idea of vampires mostly comes from Bram Stoker's Dracula, but the myth is much older. One possible reason for vampire legends is the disease rabies. Rabies can cause symptoms like aggression, insomnia, and sensitivity to light, all things we think of when we picture vampires. Plus, some bats feed on animal blood, which might explain why vampires are often linked to bats. Let's dive into the world of sea serpents. These mythical creatures appear in stories from cultures all over the world. Ancient sailors often reported seeing massive sea monsters. One real animal that might have inspired these tales is the oarfish, which can grow up to 30 feet long. With their long bodies and rare appearances near the surface, it's easy to see why people might mistake them for sea serpents. In Norse mythology, there's the Jormungandr, or Midgard serpent, which was said to encircle the earth. Some scholars think this myth might have been inspired by meteorites streaking across the sky, leaving long, snake-like trails of light. Let's dive into a more modern myth, the Jersey Devil. This creepy creature is said to haunt the Pine Barrens of New Jersey and has been around since 1735. People describe it as having a horse-like head, cloven hooves, and bat-like wings. Some stories even say it was born to a witch and flew off into the night right after birth. The Jersey Devil is a great example of how folklore can mix with real-life fears and superstitions, creating a legend that has lasted for centuries. Then there's the Basilisk. Let's talk about the Basilisk, often called the King of Serpents. It was said to have the power to kill with a single glance. The Basilisk was described as a mix between a snake and a rooster. This creature was mentioned in Pliny the Elder's Natural History from 79 AD. While no real animal matches this description, the myth probably came from exaggerated stories about dangerous reptiles. Let's talk about the Minotaur, another fascinating creature from Greek mythology. The Minotaur was part man, part bull, born from the union of Queen Pasiphae and a bull, thanks to a curse from Poseidon. To keep the ferocious creature contained, it was placed in a labyrinth built by Daedalus and his son Icarus. While there's no direct evidence of the Minotaur, the story might have been inspired by the Minoan civilization's bull-leaping rituals and their complex palace structures. Now, onto the Kraken. This legendary sea monster was said to be able to drag entire ships underwater. Early accounts, like those from King Sverre of Norway in 1180, describe it as a gigantic cephalopod. The giant squid, which can grow to impressive lengths, is a likely candidate for the Kraken myth. Sightings of these elusive creatures might have fueled tales of monstrous sea beasts. Let's talk about the Griffin. This majestic creature has the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle. You can find griffins in the myths of many cultures, including ancient Egypt and Greece. They were often seen as guardians of treasure and symbols of divine power. Some think the idea of griffins might have come from fossilized remains of the Protoceratops, a dinosaur with a bird-like beak that lived in the Gobi Desert. And there's also unicorns. These magical horses with a single horn have been part of folklore for centuries. Ancient writers like Pliny the Younger described creatures resembling unicorns, which were probably based on real animals like the rhinoceros. Some species of Asian rhinos have a single horn, and their name even includes the word unicorn. Let's look at the roc, an enormous bird of prey from Middle Eastern mythology. This bird was said to be so huge it could carry off elephants. You might have heard about the roc in stories like the Arabian Nights. The myth of the roc might have been inspired by sightings of the now extinct elephant bird of Madagascar, a massive flightless bird that stood up to 10 feet tall. There's also dragons. Dragons are probably the most iconic mythical creatures found in cultures all around the world. They can breathe fire, fly, and are often seen as guardians of great treasures. The myth of dragons might have been inspired by large reptiles like crocodiles, or even the discovery of dinosaur fossils, which were often mistaken for dragon bones. But what about werewolves? These are humans that can transform into wolves, a common myth in various cultures. One famous story is about Lycaon, a Greek king who was turned into a wolf by Zeus as punishment for his crimes. Werewolf tales might come from real wolves and the fear they inspired, mixed with conditions like lycanthropy, where people believe they can turn into animals. We can't forget to mention Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch. This legendary creature is said to live in the forests of North America. For centuries, people have reported seeing large, hairy, ape-like creatures. While there's no solid proof that Bigfoot exists, sightings and footprints keep the legend alive. Some think that misidentified animals like bears walking on their hind legs might explain these sightings. Let's dive into zombies. These undead creatures, now a pop culture phenomenon, actually have roots in Haitian folklore. The idea of zombies, reanimated corpses controlled by a sorcerer, comes from the voodoo religion. In modern movies and TV shows, zombies often come with viral infections and apocalyptic scenarios, but the core idea remains the same: an uncontrollable horde of the undead. Now, let's talk about Lamea from Greek mythology. Lamea was a beautiful queen turned into a child-eating monster by Hera. This myth reflects ancient fears of child abduction and the dangers lurking in the dark. Lamea's story might have been inspired by real incidents of child abduction, or served as a cautionary tale to keep children safe. There's also the Chimera, a terrifying creature from Greek mythology. It's described as having the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a serpent. This fire-breathing beast was said to cause destruction wherever it went. The myth of the Chimera might have come from tales of real animals, or exaggerated stories of strange creatures encountered by ancient travelers. Finally, we've got aliens. While not traditionally mythical creatures, stories of alien visitation have fascinated people for decades. From UFO sightings to alien abductions, these tales blend folklore with modern science fiction. Even though there's no solid evidence that aliens have visited Earth, the idea continues to spark endless theories and debates. From Cyclops to the Kraken, these legends continue to captivate our imaginations. But if you liked learning about these creatures and their origins, click on the next video to learn more about fascinating truths from history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.